Substantiating knowledge involves substantive matter. Substantive matter in which we interact and quite literally sculpt in within our bodies and nervous systems meaningful dynamical processes that regulate various aspects of our character in regards to the ego and the meaningful processes in relation to what the ego intents and directs. And this is because the meaning that is intrinsic to our being is often derived from our egos, which develop the self and mature the self. And without the ego, the self wouldn't exist. And neither would character or a recognition of the good conscience of character and the volitional capacities of character is recognized through the distinctive, individuated processes of the ego, which understands more fundamentally the necessities and the goods and the metabolisms of the self in contrast to other characters of the mind and aspects of the mind. And so you have the ego that's operating very much together with various other elements of the self in order to regulate the self and optimize and psychologically sustain our wellness infrastructure. And without a deep integration of the ego and understanding of it, all psychological sustainability would cease. And this is because the ego is a primary and preliminary root of subjective truths and also operations and workings. So it's not just about the truth, it's about the operational truths and knowledge that form these properties and have physical characteristics and really do matter in terms of its material and substantive dynamics, and substantive in the sense in which we are instantiating meanings. And not just instantiating meanings, we're digesting these meanings as we synthesize them throughout our nervous system. And this involves psychophysiological processes that become substantiations of instantiations after they've been distinguished, differentiated, and the novelty that's unique and intrinsic to us as individuals as we process it forms and synthesizes meanings that become consolidated and have these homeostatic-like imitations in which we start to form these substantiations from our initial preliminary instantiations of meaning. And so from this, we can directly see the innate innovativeness that's intrinsic to the synthesis of our being and the fundaments of creativity, as well as interest and engaging meaningfully in our interests, which is a pathway of optimism and an optimum of positive well-being, promoting greater psychological health and physical wellness through our imaginative capacities and propensities that allow us to develop deeper knowledge, often through the initial processes of speculation that help us to inquire deeper into our interests and engagements in the world, but also our curiosities that are expansive to our existence and also to others through the exemplification of these processes of knowledge and self-knowing that tend to endow greater wisdom and strengthening through what truth is obtainable in a free domain, that these syntheses are often formed and put out there, forming real objects, like really true objects, psychologically true objects that pertain to these subject-object of relationships and dynamics that are direct to psychology and the nature of psychology in terms of understanding meaningful psychological processes and how they ultimately are sourced to be able to sustain the existence of the self and the continuity of our existence, but also to optimize and proliferate that existence throughout our motivations or our interests of expanding often information out into the environment and proliferating that information even past our own finite existence and temporary existences that can often come through the workings of our mind, and creating etchings into markers, much like our ancestors had done even when they were all completely isolated. There's a tendency to go to that cave wall and to mark it and code a sense of meaning, even when one might be despairing and through their subjective experience perceive a sense of meaninglessness. There's an etching of meaning and knowledge that is formed through instantiations of subjective experience that involve these subject matters and contents of consciousness that have real, true knowledge that is substantive and relates directly to this surrounding thingness and ultimate objective truth.